Hello and welcome to Odds on Premier League Matchday 19. Of course, the Boxing Day is here. Tom Rennie, and you don't rest to give us your best tips, your knowledge. You are Santa giving out your knowledge for Christmas. Hello.
Yes, I've eaten all the Yorkshire puddings and roast potatoes a human should eat, and now, clinically obese, I am ready to give you some Premier League predictions.
All right, while the turkey is in the oven, let's analyze this Premier League. We have around 30 minutes. Otherwise, we are going to ruin our dinner. So, guys, remember to leave your comments, press the like, subscribe. Let's go on with the show. So, Tom, let's start with the games we have on Boxing Day on Tuesday, 26th of December. First one is Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. This one should be an enjoyable one for the home crowd because Newcastle, they are so good at home, even with the absentees, even with the European games, that now that they don't have European games, that they are relaxed and Nottingham Forest in trouble, this should be an easy and happy victory for St. James's Park crowd.
Yeah, I think so. Look, Newcastle this season, it's been so difficult for them with the injuries they've had. And I'm not trying to be all let's feel sympathy for the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. But on the football side of things, they've lost half the first team. Still no Tonali, no Pope, no Murphy, no Barnes, no Willock, no Anderson. Having played a couple of days ago, we don't know about the fitness of Isak and Trippier, and Fabian Schär's going to be out. So many players injured and so many players coming back from injury, liable to get injured again. And so many players who have played so much football, they're an injury risk, as we saw with Fabian Schär a couple of weekends ago. So lots of variables there. The good news for them is that, A, their home form, even when down to bare bones, has been terrific. They've beaten some real top sides at home this season, including both Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain. And for Nottingham Forest, they are one of the worst teams away from home, not just in the Premier League this season, but in the last two seasons of Premier League football. Just one victory this season, that was against Chelsea at the nadir of Chelsea's season, and just two victories away from home in the entirety of their time back in the Premier League. The other was against Southampton, who have since been relegated. They haven't quite found a way to win games. They haven't found a good balance between defence and offence. And defensively, they've been incredibly poor. 19 goals conceded away from home is nowhere near the category of good enough. So you can't pick Nottingham Forest. If they win it, it will be a shock. And we don't bet on shocks. We bet on the form. So Newcastle to win this game is what you would take here. The odds aren't great. So add that to without conceding and you'll make some money. The reason I think that is that defensively, they've been very good this season at home, just 4 goals conceded. Look at some of these victories, 3-0, 1-0, 1-0, 4-0. They don't concede many. They do score a decent amount. Take Newcastle to win without conceding. That brings you just below the threshold. A Newcastle win with a minus 2.5 handicap also gets you there. I know that's very confident, but when poor teams have gone to St. James's, Newcastle, even without being able to make subs, have walloped them. So go for a big, clean sheet, Newcastle win.
In Nottingham, they are one of the worst away teams in the Premier League with only 5 points. In Newcastle, Asian handicap minus 2.5 is 4. The odds are really high. Newcastle to win 2-0. 2.4. 2.4 is Bournemouth also to beat Fulham. That could be a good idea, thinking how good Bournemouth are recently. And also, Fulham, it looks like for some games they switch on, for some games they switch off. Let's see if they want to play this one or they are relaxed in the south of England.
Yeah, and Bournemouth, at home, they have been pretty impressive in the last few weeks, as well as their away form, the way they've performed in these home games. The draw against Aston Villa, victories over Newcastle and Burnley. Yes, when they played Newcastle, there was almost no Newcastle players left, but you've still got to walk through that door, though Newcastle opened it for them. And they did. I have been impressed with the turn of form that Bournemouth have put on. I think Andoni Iraola came into the Premier League a bit like a rabbit in the headlights and tried to do his thing. And the Premier League, as it's done to so many managers over the years, slapped him down. And I think he's obviously an astute manager. Some people aren't, some people are. And he's gone slightly more cautious, slightly more hit them on the brakes, slightly more Moyes than Postecoglou. in a way, and I think that'll get you results down the bottom end of the Premier League. Plus, in Dominic Solanke, they have one of the best players in the Premier League this season. So you have to look at a Bournemouth victory here. For Fulham, still no Raul Jimenez, sent off against Newcastle, 2-game ban for that straight red. That's an issue because he had started to look like the old player we remember from scoring so many goals for Wolverhampton Wanderers. We wondered if he was ever going to come back again. He looked like he had. So to get sent off for a silly tackle at Newcastle is certainly frustrating for Marco Silva's side. But at home, they've been good this year, Fulham. Away from home, pretty dismal. 1 victory away from home, 1 point in the last 5. Some poor performances, lots of goals conceded, 20 conceded to this point. You only got to go one way here. That is Bournemouth to win, and Bournemouth to win without conceding as well. I like that because it brings it up to a more competitive threshold. 20 goals conceded this season for Fulham is not good at all away from home. And at home this season, Bournemouth have shown they can score goals. With Solanke, they've got a really good striker. And I think this might be the one where they start nicking a couple of goals. They get to double figures this season. They start winning the games they should be winning and move themselves out of that race. So Bournemouth win without conceding. Easy win for the Cherries.
Well, without conceding is 4.6, really high odds because Bournemouth to win is good enough. It's 2.45. The odds are
Take it.
really good indeed. Take it. Next game, Sheffield United, Luton Town. They both teams to lose game. Both are favorites to go down this season, but Sheffield United, they are favorites into this game. I'm not sure if they've shown better things or more things than Luton Town this season to have them as favorites for this game, Tom.
No, I agree. I don't see any scenario where I put my money on Sheffield United to win a game of football. I just, Chris Wilder has come back in and he's given everyone a bit of a lift, and the win over Brentford was a great moment for him, but I don't see them being many more for the Blades. It's such a tricky one, this. It's tricky because both teams are going to get relegated. So in the end, it's going to be immaterial what happens here. But I do think Sheffield United are worse than Luton. I think it's nowhere near a Premier League squad, and none of the players in it have stepped up to the mark. There's still no Chris Basham. There's no John Egan. So they're 2 soldiers of the old Chris Wilder team that aren't there. And offensively, Ollie McBurney just looks like a Luddite lump up front with no great delicacy to him, and Archer alongside him, decent championship striker, and he's kind of shown that that's where he is. In terms of Luton, as with most of their games, you look at how tight things are. They score 1, they concede 2. They score 2, they concede 3. They score 3, they concede 4. They're always in games. They always find a way to make you work for it. And I think if you go across 5 games, only the Tottenham game at home, they failed to score in it. Beyond that, they've been able to always score in games. That's if you're talking about the home form. Away from home, they still nick goals. They nick one in the loss against Brentford. They nick one in the loss against Aston Villa. They scored a couple in the draw against Nottingham Forest. They keep showing you they can score. So take both teams to score in this game. Defensively weak, offensively interesting, and I'll go with Luton Town. Luton Town to win this match and both teams to score. That brings you in at a really, really tidy sum. I wouldn't touch Sheffield United. I don't discount the draw here. But again, draw and both teams score. That brings you above 4, which is crazy for any result. But I can see it. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be low quality. Both teams know how much there is on the line in a game like this. If they're going to stay up, they've got to win it. And I'll just shade for Luton because they've impressed me more.
Well, Luton to win is 3.4, the draw is 3.56, and both teams to score is 1.86. So if you make some combinations, you will have really high odds. The other team that is going to get relegated is Burnley. They are playing at home against Liverpool. Burnley, they are so bad at home, only 1 victory, 8 defeats. But Liverpool on the road also gave us some doubts. They've won some games, for instance, against Crystal Palace, but last-minute victories, and for instance, they drop points against Luton Town. So it's a proof, a test. If they want to win the Premier League or challenge for it, they have to go to Burnley and win.
Yeah, they will not be champions this year, Liverpool, unless they win away games consistently. And at the moment, that is not happening. You're absolutely right to point that out. I mean, look, briefly on Burnley, I do feel sorry for them in that they couldn't build a Premier League squad in the summer. 1 or 2 players have impressed this season. Lyle Foster has just come back. Took 3 months out or so with personal issues. That was a big blow for Burnley as a team, whatever you think about him being off or not. it was a big blow to not have your goal scorer, and also to lose Luca Koleosho, who has been so impressive. I watched him destroy West Ham a couple of weeks ago. Brilliant skill, pace, drive. To lose him for the entirety of the season is a massive blow. And the replacements just simply aren't to that standard. And even those players were, surprisingly to that standard. So all sorts of issues. And defensively, they've tried different combinations, but Bayer, O'Shea, Al-Dakhil, all of them, they're championship players. They're going back down to the championship. And also, it's worth noting 22 goals conceded at home, 10 goals scored, but 5 were in one game. So, it's not a great record. Absolutely right to pick out Liverpool, but you ain't going to make any money on Liverpool to win a tight game. So you have to, if you're going to make some money, hope that Liverpool do find a way to score goals. Take a minus 2.5 handicap. It is the most conservative handicap I can find. Actually makes you any money. Minus 3.5, minus 4, all that. You cannot bet on a big Liverpool win right now because they're not doing big wins, certainly away from home. They are winning, but 1-2, 2-0 in the last couple of games. Not enough to make us confident. Liverpool will be good for your accumulator, and you've got to go a minus 2.5 to make any money. But this may well be one to avoid, just because as an individual team right now, Liverpool away from home are unreliable and they might cost you.
Indeed, the Asian handicap you mentioned is 3.75, but still, probably it's too risky. Liverpool winning by 3 goals margin in Turf Moor. The best game we have in Boxing Day is, in my opinion, of course, Man United, Aston Villa. This is a tricky one because we've always said that Aston Villa, they are really good at home, but away they drop form, but actually they are winning games away from home, for instance, against Brentford, against Tottenham. We know that Man United sit very defensively when they are playing away tough games, as they've done recently. Even in the Champions League, they were playing also very defensively against Bayern Munich at home, Tom, but at one point they have to show something and go for the game. Perhaps this is one of these games, and Emery will be very happy to sit and wait.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, Man United's home form has been wild this season. 9 games played at home, 5 victories, some quite impressive, 4 defeats, and all of them were very dismal. And the Bournemouth game was one of the worst performances by any team this season in the Premier League. It was atrocious. Bournemouth played well. I don't want to disrespect them, but defensively weak, offensively offered nothing. The midfield was paper light, like you could just walk through it. It was ridiculous how bad they were. And I think even some of the other games they've won at home this season against Luton, they were dreadful. Against Brentford, they pulled it out of the fire after the 90th minute from 2 Scott McTominay shonky finishes. So difficult to back Manchester United. I think that they could just as easily lose this game 1-0 as win it 1-0. And because of that, I just can't put my money on it. The Aston Villa thing is really interesting. The home form we know, as you alluded to, has been fantastic. Away, I think we might need to start rethinking how well they've done away from home this season. 4 victories in 9 is actually pretty decent. The Brentford win, not many win at Brentford. And to go there and outfight Brentford and win it was pretty impressive. The Tottenham win was impressive too. It's 1 defeat in the last 5 away from home with 12 goals scored across the campaign. I think you've got to look at Aston Villa here. There's one of these 2 teams I think will finish in the top 4 this season. This game may well go a long way to defining which one it is. And if Villa win it, I'm not sure United will catch them in the second half of the campaign. Look at the Villa victories, how they've done it this season. They've normally done it in pretty low-scoring games away from home. There's 1-2s, there's 1-2, there's a 1-0. It's all been pretty tight. So look at the group bet. Take the group bet. You know I love the group bet. Aston Villa to win 1-0, 2-0, or 2-1 brings you in at really, really nice odds here. Villa to win is actually quite nice, to be fair. Because of Manchester United being at home, it always brings you that variable. So number 1, take Villa to win. Number 2, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. And number 3, take Villa to win and both teams to score. Villa to win and both teams to score because of Villa's winning pattern. 2-1 is the most likely scoreline, and that's 3 scenarios there where that scoreline is covered.
Well, Villa to win is great. It's 3.46. They are the underdogs for this game. I'm so surprised to see Man United favorite for the game. Well, these are all the games we have on Tuesday. Let's jump on the games we have on Wednesday. You mentioned that it's not easy to win in Brentford, and our next game is Brentford Wolves, and we have serious doubts about Wolverhampton playing away 4 consecutive defeats against teams, for instance, like Sheffield United. So Brentford to win is 2.15. Is good enough to put our money there?
Oh, yeah, I'll take that. I'll absolutely take that. And I might throw this into an accumulator as well across the weekend. The home form has not been as good as it should have been for Brentford this season. But when you consider, we keep mentioning this, there's been no Tony all season. Brian Mbeumo is out until the new year. It's a huge loss for them. Tony's still not back. Another 3 games, I think, until he's able to play again for them. So a bunch of huge losses this season. One of the lowest valued squads in the league. It's pretty impressive. And they've beaten some good teams at home as well. Wolves away from home. As I mentioned to you previously, I went to the West Ham game a couple of matches ago, and I was so disappointed in them. At home, Wolves have been pretty dangerous at points this season, but away from home, it's 4 straight defeats and some real whimpery defeats as well. Got players like Pedro Neto should hopefully be back for this one, and Mateus Cunha, people who can carry the ball through the thirds. That's impressive, but defensively, they've been quite weak. I think if Jose Sarr is missing, the backup goalkeeper is simply nowhere near good enough. There's all sorts of issues there. I think if you look at the form, 4 straight away defeats for Wolverhampton Wanderers going into this game. For Brentford, 3 wins in the last 5, 3 wins across the season, rarely beaten at home. I can't back Wolverhampton Wanderers. Take a Brentford win on its own. You can also take Brentford to win without conceding. If you look at Wolves scoring goals away from home this season, it's simply not been good enough over the last 4-5 match rounds. And so take Brentford to win without conceding brings you just above the threshold, but Brentford to win on its own, fine for me.
3.7 actually. Brentford to win 2-0 is good enough. And not far from Brentford, we find Chelsea Crystal Palace. This is a tricky one. Perhaps we see a disappointment because Crystal Palace on the road, they've been performing better than at Selhurst Park. We saw it 10 days ago against Man City, for instance, how they were able to get a draw. And Chelsea, they are just not convincing anyone, Tom.
This is awful game to predict. I've got to tell you, I have said this to you, I think now for 19 weeks. I don't know what to tell you about Chelsea. I really don't, because they are such a mid-table team. And one of the worst things to predict in all football is a mid-table team, because they are obviously capable of going against big clubs and good teams and winning, but they're also more than capable of losing those games. You know, they've been impressive. Look at Man City when they played there. They were fantastic. They went to Newcastle and were atrocious. And that's kind of been the story of Chelsea all season long. Some great performances, Brighton, some awful performances, Brentford. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about Chelsea. I really don't. There's so much that doesn't work about this particular team. And I think we all thought it might have clicked by now. But for whatever reason, it just isn't and just hasn't. The good news for them, a bit like when they've beaten the likes of Luton at home this season, they take on a Crystal Palace side who have not done enough this season to impress. Look, away from home, it's 1 win in 5, which doesn't sound particularly impressive, but the draws against West Ham and Man City deserve a lot of credit. City, a lot, because they were 2-0 down with 15 minutes to play and went in to get something from it. But I just don't see enough with Crystal Palace. It's good to see Eze back. It's good to see Elise back, but I think Decore missing in midfield takes away a lot of the bite from it. And so I can't put my money on Crystal Palace to win away from home. I just can't do it. It sounds weird to me. It does scream draw, this game, I've got to say. It screams 1-1 draw. Chelsea score and Palace get back into the game. But I would potentially look here at Chelsea to win a low-scoring game, go under 2.5. That's 1-0. That's 2-0. I love the group bet as well. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. That brings you in above the threshold too. But Chelsea to win this match, under 2.5. That's what I'm looking at here.
Super favorites. Chelsea for this game is 1.6 for them to win. And on Wednesday, we have another tricky game. Everton, Man City back from Arabia for playing the FIFA World Cup. Perhaps finally we see Kevin De Bruyne back in the team, but in the Premier League it's only been 1 victory in the last 6. Perhaps they are tired from the trip. Perhaps they don't know if they are in England, in Saudi Arabia, and they are playing Everton, a really informed team that could harm them. Tom, this is a very special and tricky one also, because if you look at the standings, they can see Arsenal or Liverpool far away from them now, Man City.
This is a really difficult game to predict, because I think that Everton's form, this recent burst of form they've unexpectedly had, has almost entirely been built on what they've been able to do on the road. Their form at Goodison Park this season has been nowhere near good enough, and I think that's something that Sean Dyche, their manager, will be really keen to improve. Worth noting, against Man City, even at home, you play like the away team, so that may well work in Everton's favour. And at 5.25 just to win, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I quite like it. I quite like it because there is a belief about Everton right now. There is an energy about Everton which there isn't about Manchester City. City being away for the Club World Cup, it does put some mileage in the legs. They don't have a particularly deep squad. The trouble is they've got an incredibly high quality squad. I'd expect Erling Haaland to be fit. I don't think Kevin De Bruyne is going to play, but we shall see. I think coming back into the Premier League is very different to playing at some silly money-making tournament out in Saudi Arabia. So I think it will be very different. I'd be surprised if he came back in for this. We shall see. But I just like that. Everton to win at 5.25, I might just take it. I can see Everton finding a way to score from a corner and shutting the game down. And it depends if City find their rhythm. They are really struggling to find it at the moment. You look at the form they've had away from home across the season as well, though impressive. It has been, for them, inconsistent. 2 defeats in the last 5. In the victory over Luton, did they play particularly well? I don't think so. In the game against Chelsea, did they play particularly well? I don't think so. Against Aston Villa, what Villa did was just swarm them. And if you can swarm them, I think there's every chance you are able to beat them. So I like that at 5.25 and I'll take it. If you think City are going to win it, I think you've got to look at them winning impressively. Look at the Manchester United game at Everton. If you get the first goal against them, you can build on it. Everton are not a good team if you have scored the first goal against them. They're not good coming from behind. They're not good trying to play expansive football. They are brilliant at scoring, shutting the game down, getting the second, scoring the third. That's what they have been strong at. That's what Dyche teams are good at. But if Everton are to lose, go Man City win and take a handicap. Take a minus 1.5 handicap to make it worth your time. But I don't see a draw. I think Everton win tight or City win big.
Well, Man United won 3-0 some weeks ago, but this one is a tricky one. Perhaps if they drop points, we can start thinking that they might not win the Premier League this season. Tom, how are the potatoes? Do you still have some minutes for 2 more games to analyze with us?
If I burn 1 potato, I'll be furious. So let's try our best to get this done before Christmas ×2 is ruined.
Okay, on Thursday we have 2 more games. Brighton, Tottenham. This is a good one, and my eyes goes directly to both teams to score. Of course, we have Brighton. Usually they score plenty of goals. Only 1 defeat at home this season was against West Ham, and Spurs, same. Most of the games we see expansive football and goals in both ends.
Yeah, this screams goals. This is the game you want to be watching across the Christmas period. I cannot wait to watch this one. Brighton, in every game this season, the vast majority, bar the Arsenal game, both teams have scored. And at home this year, it's incredible to look at these results. 2-2, 1-1, 1-1, 2-1 and 1-1. Across their last 5, there's been 4 draws in there. And in a lot of those games, they've conceded first and had to come back into the game. They've grown stronger as the game has gone on. For Tottenham Hotspur, away from home going into this match round, they are the best team still away from home this season. A lot of that built on that early season form, but even with the injuries, they've still gone to City and got a 3-3 draw. They've still gone to Forest and scored a couple of goals. It's 20 goals scored on the road this season for Tottenham. Absolutely incredible amount of goals to add to the 18 scored at home for Brighton. So in games in this scenario, 38 goals have been scored across 9 matches per team. Crazy. So go goals here. Go both teams to score, obviously. And from that point, all results are possible. Draw, put it on the table. 1-1, 2-2, 3-3 as a group bet. Very, very nice here. I like that. If you're going for a winner, I would just favour Brighton and Hove Albion as the home team, but add that to both teams to score. Brings you above the 2-1 threshold we are always looking at. But don't discount Tottenham as well. If they're your gut, go with them. Add it to both teams to score. There is money to be made. Go the over 2.5 goals in the game. If you're picking a winner, go over 3.5. That makes it 3-1 to one of these 2 teams. And also in the group bets, I like this. Brighton to win it on a group bet on the second rung up. That's 3-0, That's 3-1 or 3-2. I just feel it. I'm feeling it. I'm into it. I'm loving it. Goals, goals, goals. A Christmas feast, some would say, of goals. Also, though, 1-1 looks likely as well.
Okay, you've convinced me. Unfortunately, both teams to score is only 1.4, more or less. Obviously, the bookies know their stuff. And it looks like we are going to have a lot of goals. And the last game is another good one. Arsenal-West Ham. This is like going to the dentist, perhaps, Tom, for you, for finishing the Christmas period with Declan Rice in the spotlight, playing against his former club at home. 7 wins, 2 draws. This should be an Arsenal victory, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Look, Arsenal actually have been pretty impressive this season, getting victories in games like this. For the neutral, it hasn't been as thrilling as last season, but they have been just standard. They're getting the job done. They're not over excelling themselves, not getting overexcited, not having T-shirts made in December of "We are the champions," which is great for Arsenal because there's a professionalism about them that maybe was lacking in the frenzy of the back end of last season. Look at their results as well at home. 1-0 victory, 3-1 victory, 2-1 victory, 2-0 victory. Solid, unspectacular, job done. For West Ham, you've got to stay away from home. 4 victories this season in the first half of the campaign is pretty impressive. And some of the victories too, winning at Tottenham, winning at Brighton. You know, you can't criticize that. They play in the way they do. They shut the center of the pitch down. They force you out wide. You have to then cross the ball or go back again. And on the break with Mohamed Kudus, Lucas Paquetá and Jarrod Bowen, there aren't a better 3 players as a group in the league in terms of quality for the way West Ham want to play. Paquetá slipping in Bowen and Kudus, you're in trouble. If you haven't left enough players back and that 3 are running at you, you're in massive trouble. Bowen's in double figures already this season. Kudus, I think, is on 7 or 8 across the season in all competitions. Paquetá, 3 assists against Wolves a couple of weeks ago. They could cause some damage here. So if you fancy West Ham, I don't discount them winning a game where both teams score. That's 2-1, that's 3-1, as their away victories have been this season. All their away victories they have conceded, but gone on to win the game. So don't discount that. But you look at the form, you look at the professionalism of Arsenal this season. I think they win this game. Take the group bet of 1-0, 2-0, or 2-1. That brings you in a nice amount of money. Arsenal winning both teams to score. I'm probably going to favor that, actually. Looking at the odds now, I think I'll favor both teams to score 2-1 because West Ham have nicked a goal, even in games they've lost in the main this season. And I'm thinking more about the Wolves match. I'm thinking more about the Burnley match. I can see West Ham scoring, but I see Arsenal coming on stronger and winning in the end. So Arsenal win, both teams to score. It screams 2-1, frankly.
Okay, low odds for Arsenal to win though, 1.4. So if you want to make some money, you have to go somewhere else or spice it up, as Tom is telling us. Tom, let's finish this Christmassy video with your safe bet.
Safe bet, it's a weird one this week, but I'm going to take Newcastle. Newcastle win at home against Nottingham Forest, who have only won 2 games in the Premier League since their promotion. And Newcastle, the second best team at home in the Premier League this season, with 8 victories from 9. Safe bet.
And your mighty ACCA.
3-team ACCA brings me in just under 4. Newcastle will beat Nottingham Forest. Liverpool to win against Burnley. And Brentford are going to be my other team. There's not many big safe bets in here in the in this fixture list. I don't fancy Man City to win at Everton, so I can't put them in. Wolves awful away. Brentford good at home. If you put them in, it's a risk, but it'll bring you in some money.
And usually we see lots of surprises in these Christmas periods. There are games every 3 days. Teams get tired, so we might have so many surprises. There is no safe bets, Tom, but let's enjoy, of course, the games while we eat a lot, drink a lot, and enjoy Christmas. Thanks, Tom. Go and grab the turkey in the oven, please.